Okay, so welcome to our session on the power of forgiveness. This is our topic for this evening. And I dare say this is relevant for everyone because so often we may have that experience in life that somebody is not treating us so nicely and we are offended. And we keep this pain, these grudges in our heart for many, many years. And we cannot so easily forgive. Right? Have we had that experience? Yes, I'm sure we have. And sometimes, people remember something which somebody did to them 20 years ago. They still remember. The other person already long forgot, moved on, but the other person, still keeping that pain in the heart. And it's interesting to understand that very often we think to forgive somebody, we do for the other person, right? But actually, the main reason why we have to learn to forgive is for our own sake. Yeah. So this is quite an interesting topic. And yeah, I hope it will be of some little use to you. So let us first of all remember that we have the primary quality of humility, which manifests in so many secondary qualities. What do you think? What are the secondary qualities of humility? Gratitude, tolerance, respect, yes. Show love, yeah. Yes. Service, and also forgiveness, right? It's also a sign of humility, actually. It's a secondary quality of humility, Very easy to say, oh yeah, I'm so humble, but the real test is how patient are we, how forgiving are we, how grateful we are. That's when we really show where we stand. So in other words, a humble person will always have these qualities, whereas a proud person will never be grateful for anything, will never be respectful, will not be forgiving, will definitely not be tolerant, So interesting to understand how it all is connected. So now I do want to start our discussion with a very interesting statement which Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes in the book Chaitanya Shiksha Amrita. He says the following: giving up the desire to punish a person for committing an offense is called forgiveness or tolerance. So there is two interesting points in there which are very subtle. We may have never even thought about them before. That, let me read it again, giving up the desire to punish a person for committing an offense. That is actually called forgiveness. So in other words, somebody is behaving very badly to us and giving us pain. So the reaction of the false ego is we want to punish them for that. We want to do something nasty in return, even though it may never grossly manifest externally, but we hang on to this desire to get back at them, to take revenge. Like a very classic way to try and punish a person is that I'm not going to talk to that person anymore. I ignore them. I don't want to be friends anymore. So it's an indirect way of trying to punish them, right? So, and if we give up that desire to punish a person for the pain they have given us, that is called forgiveness. And the second interesting point Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes, that he says this is called forgiveness or tolerance. You know? So he actually equates forgiveness with tolerance. So that is a point which we may have never even thought of. How actually forgiveness is connected with tolerance. And the inability to forgive is actually based on an inability to tolerate. That's what is behind it. So I really like to discuss these subtle topics, because, for many years, I never even thought about these things, how tolerance is the foundation to forgiveness. Without tolerance, you cannot forgive, and that forgiveness is this very thing, that to give up this desire to punish a person for what they did to us. That is forgiveness. So it shows, that to be forgiving actually requires some internal work. Not so easy. We have to do some internal work. So since, forgiveness is based on tolerance, I want to talk a little bit about this quality of tolerance. Actually, the other day, when was it? Saturday morning, we had that ladies program, Tolerance, Strength or Weakness. There we were talking about the topic of tolerance, But I guess you were not at the ladies program, so you haven't heard it. Huh? Yes, but not at the program of tolerance, that was a ladies program. So that's why you haven't heard it before. So, yeah. I was just making a joke here. Yeah, so let us talk a little bit about tolerance, because that is, that gives us the ability to be forgiving. So first, let's understand a little bit about tolerance. And then I do want to read from the False Ego book. I'm discussing this in all details. There is a chapter, the Forgiveness Meditations. There's a few nice things which, make us more deeply understand what forgiveness is really all about. So that's what we want to do tonight. Yes, so for tolerance, such an important quality to cultivate in spiritual life. Actually, tolerance, we can see it as a criteria to measure a person's spiritual strength and advancement, and how tolerant a person can be. Yeah. The shining examples are always Haridas Thakur, Prahlad Maharaj. They're the embodiment of tolerance. Right? Yes, embodiment. And tolerance, what stops us from being tolerant? Huh? False ego, yes, of course, nothing else. False ego is rebelling, protesting, why me? And. So that's the false ego, yeah. So that's why tolerance is a sign of advancement, because it means false ego is already a little subdued and dissolved, and it's already quietening down a little bit. It's not so prominent anymore. So that is a sign of advancement, because to go back to Godhead, we have to completely transform the false ego into the real ego, as we discussed, when was it, Friday or something. Yes. So, and let me just share a few little things about tolerance, which I put in my verse book here. From Bhagavatam 1:18-48, there's a very powerful verse. It says there, the devotees of the Lord are so forbearing, so forbearing is another word for tolerance, that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. So, remembering, the definition that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives for forgiveness, so they're not inclined to avenge themselves or avenge themselves, meaning, they have given up that desire to punish the person. So even if a person is defamed, meaning our reputation is ruined, what will everybody think of me now? If somebody spread some rumors about us which are not even true, so our fame and glory is spoiled, our reputation is spoiled. This is a challenge for the false ego, Oh yes, especially if it is all unfairly happening, Or when we are cheated, this is also a challenge for the false ego. False ego is crying for justice and fairness, and sometimes we have it, in the outside world, when some heavy crime was committed, let's say somebody was killed, usually the family members, they can only find some little peace if that person is in jail for the rest of his life. That's a false ego demanding that justice. Yes. So that's actually the false ego's demands. Yeah. So when we are cheated, a big challenge for the false ego. Or when we are cursed, well, the curses are not so powerful anymore these days in Kali Yuga. But when we are neglected, that is also a bit of a challenge for the false ego, when we are not nicely treated, when we are ignored, we are neglected, so this is also not so easy to tolerate. Or there's another nice definition, that's 11th canto, it says there, tolerance means to patiently endure unhappiness, such as that provoked by the insults or negligence of others. So if somebody insults us, also challenging for the false ego, we feel like, insulting them as well, or when we are neglected, when we are ignored, So to patiently endure such kind of unhappiness, that's what it means to be tolerant. Yeah. And I mean, interesting, I always like to remember this verse 269 from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, what is day to the materialist, the common person, is night to the introspective sage. So tolerance is a really good example for this, because basically this verse says what is the highest in material life, what is success in material life, will be seen as what in bhakti? Failure, obstacle, hindrance, right? And what is the highest in bhakti will be seen as what with mundane eyes? Failure, weakness, being a loser, right? So this topic of tolerance is a really good example for this, because a materialist, what? You tolerate that nonsense? Forget it. I would not tolerate that. Who am I to tolerate such nonsense? I walk out, I get divorced. That is success, not to tolerate. To stand up for your rights and defend yourself, that's seen as victory with mundane eyes. But from a spiritual point of view, unwanted for the ego. Yes, yes. Yeah, so we have to really remember this, that this day-night principle accompanies us throughout all our life, actually. Especially also all these qualities which are important for ladies in bhakti, like chastity, shyness, this is all, huh? She needs a psychiatrist to know how to show off and, push herself to the front and all that. So yeah, it's so much like day and night. So if we don't remember this, then very easily we get confused. And we think, well, this is progressiveness. We want to be modern and progressive too here in ISKCON. Otherwise, how will people take the Krishna consciousness? And then we easily invite all these modern Kali Yuga trends in our life. It is happening. Oh, yes, it is happening. Yes, actually, the other day in Europe, I attended a wedding. And I was so shocked, how the bride was dressed up, My goodness, all without sleeves and, so much bare skin everywhere, So, yeah, I mean, very easily we invite these things into our life thinking that's what it means to be modern and cool and progressive, But for our cultivation of bhakti, it might just really be an obstacle, that mentality. So we have to be very mindful of this day-night principle, you know. Same with women when they're mothers. What? You're only mother and a housewife? Is that all you're doing? That's the mundane vision. Woman has to be out there, career, and, you know. But no, in spiritual life, being a mother is such an important service. Mothers come straight after Krishna comes the mother. So we have this day-night principle in all different aspects of our life. And we have to very carefully consider this before we invite some modern Kali Yuga trends here into our life. Because, yeah, all of them are guaranteed not supportive for bhakti. That's what it is. Krishna says it. Very clear. Right? Isn't it? Yes. So now back to tolerance. Very often when we talk about tolerance, people say, but how much can we tolerate? How much? Or they say, if I tolerate, then all this negativity builds up in me and I get all sick, and sooner or later I explode, and now tolerance doesn't work for me. Very often people say this. So we have to understand the difference between true tolerance and simply suppressing things. So suppressing things will never be the answer for anything. Suppressing will not be purifying. Doesn't matter what we suppress, even material desires, even lusty desires. No, suppressing will not do the trick. We have to engage the senses in Krishna's service and gradually purify them, give them some frame for being fulfilled and fulfill the needs and. But simply suppressing does not do any good. So in the same way with this tolerance, what we usually think is to be tolerance is actually suppressing. It means we simply try to push down the false ego's demands, meaning we just shut up, we don't want to say anything, but then inside it's all boiling, and the whole false ego battle is continuing inside. And then things are building up and up and up, and it's going all in circles in the head, until we explode or get sick or whatever, So that we cannot call tolerance. It's simply suppressing. It's like, we put a cork on the bottle and then shake it and it's all, yeah, it's all exploding there, with some fizzy drink or something, you try and keep the cork down, Yeah, that is not tolerance. So true tolerance is something different. True tolerance, we require two tools. The first tool is that we have this approach. Actually, Krishna is so kind, he only gives me one drop of what I really deserve. Actually, I deserve so much worse. I've been a rascal. I must have tortured that person before in previous lives, so now I'm getting it back. And actually, I should be getting so much more than what I'm getting. So if we have that approach truly in our heart, that will already quieten down a little bit the false ego's demands. If we say, actually, I deserve much worse, So now my question to you, what quality do we need to have that mood? Exactly. Good. Yeah, we said it already in the beginning that humility is the primary quality which manifests in the secondary quality of tolerance, forgiveness. So at least a little bit of humility we have, to cultivate this mood. And these things, it requires some cultivation. We cannot manifest that mood just from one day to the other. We have to hear these things, and then when Krishna gives us these opportunities where we find ourselves in situations which are difficult to tolerate, so then we should remember these two tools and say, okay, yeah, actually I deserve more. Krishna is very kind. So yeah, that's the tool number one. And then the second tool is that we have to learn to see our situation with Krishna in the picture. That it is Krishna's arrangement. After all, not a blade of grass is moving in this world without Krishna's sanction. So that we ask ourselves, why is Krishna giving me this situation? What is he trying to teach me? He must be trying to give me some lesson here. So what is the lesson I'm meant to learn? Again, if we have that tool additionally to the first tool of being humble, then, yeah, that keeps the false ego quieter. If we have this mood, why is Krishna doing this to me? So actually to see each and every situation in our life as Krishna's arrangement, seeing Krishna's hand in the picture. That's what it actually means to be Krishna conscious. Yeah, that's what it means, to see everything in our life connected with Krishna. But so often, this is not so easy for us. When things go all according to our desires and to our, hopes for sense gratification, then very easily to see it as Krishna's arrangement. Oh yeah, I got the job, Krishna's arrangement. Oh yes, I did this, that, Krishna's arrangement. But it's not always Krishna's arrangement when it's just about our sense gratification. It can also be Maya's arrangement. She also makes her arrangements too. But if things are not going according to our hopes and plans, then it's sometimes so difficult to see things as Krishna's arrangement, right? Yeah. I mean, I've been in situations where I, observed that devotees, even though they're in Krishna consciousness for 25 years and they're doing their little puja every morning and, doing all these things, But then something happens, some calamity comes, and they just can't even see Krishna's hand in the whole picture. They can't see, they can't connect. Hey, what I'm experiencing here, Krishna must have some reason. You know, they can't even put the two together. Yeah. So sometimes, yeah, you're wondering, you know, how deep is our Krishna consciousness? We may just go very externally through the motions and do all the things in a ritualistic way and mechanical way, but how much actual Krishna consciousness are we developing, you know? So now, next question to you. To see things as Krishna's arrangement, Krishna's hand in the picture, what do we have to have? We have to have something. Exactly. Faith. That's the key word. We need faith in Krishna. Without faith, we cannot see Krishna's hand in the picture at all. We can't connect our situation with Krishna being behind it. That requires faith. Yeah. See, and these things, I think, these two things are often the main things we are lacking. You know, we are lacking the humility to think, actually, I deserve so much more. But Krishna is so kind, he only gives me one drop. And we are lacking the faith in Krishna to see that, you know, to have that vision that there must be some reason why he's doing this to us. You know? And that's why people find it more and more difficult to be tolerant. Lack of faith, lack of humility, you know. And I mean, faith, it's a whole different topic. Faith is also such an important thing to cultivate. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, again, he says, in the beginning, a new devotee, his or her faith is as weak as a newly born baby girl. The girls are usually a little weaker than the boys, so that's why he says baby girl. And baby girls and baby boys also, what do they need? They need all protection and nourishment. So that's our situation. Our faith in the beginning may be very fragile. And we have to protect and nourish our faith. That's actually the essence of when we cultivate new people, when we cultivate devotees, even in the bhaktas ashram, brahmachari ashram, whatever, you know, that we have to protect and nourish people's faith in Krishna, in the holy name, in Prabhupada. Very important, unflinching faith in Prabhupada. If we have faith in Prabhupada, then there are no controversial topics, actually. You know, because Prabhupada makes so many strong, heavy statements, you know, in the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, especially concerning women and so many other topics. So if we don't have faith in Prabhupada, you know, then it becomes controversial. But if we have faith in Prabhupada, then we will say, okay, Prabhupada says these things, he must have some reason for it. Maybe I'm not there yet that I can understand it and accept it in my life. So let me park it. And maybe after some time I get more purification and maybe then I can understand and accept it in my life. So then there's no controversial topics. You know? Yeah, so faith, extremely important. If we have unflinching faith in Prabhupada, nothing will shake us. Doesn't matter what's going on in ISKCON. And there's always something going on. So, but if we have unflinching faith in Prabhupada, it will not bewilder us. We will never leave Krishna consciousness or ISKCON. But if our faith is weak, then when the slightest challenge comes, and Krishna is always testing us, and as we go on in our spiritual life, the tests are more severe, so unless we have faith, difficult to survive these tests, yes. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. And also Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that faith is the currency to purchase Krishna. Yeah. So very natural if Krishna sees, oh, my devotee has so much faith in me, tolerating so many things, in my service. So then he becomes conquered. His heart is conquered, and he will reach out, he will give protection. Same experience we have in our daily relationships. If somebody has faith in us, if we have some little soft point there in our heart, then we feel obliged. We don't want to let that person down because they have faith in us, and we reach out and protect that person, right? Isn't it? Yes. So Krishna also works that way, So when he sees his devotees has faith, then he will reach out and protect. So before we go to these forgiveness meditations, let me see if there's any questions or further discussion about the topic of tolerance. Well, I mean, see, for a long time, our practice is mixed. It's not pure, So, but this is part of the process, how our practice becomes more pure, by subduing the false ego. So that's how we do it. It requires some internal work, And that's also, again, one reason why we need a counselor. Because in a more neophyte stage, false ego will block our ears and intelligence, and we can't hear, we can't understand, and false ego is triggering us, and we are all agitated. So we cannot see, and we will not remember, oh, Krishna is so kind, I actually deserve worse, or what is he trying to teach us? We cannot see this. So that's why we need this well-wishing friend on our side, So we need this well-wishing friend on our side who is more experienced, who has no other interest except our spiritual progress and our growth and development, and who we want to be corrected by. This is such a crucial aspect of devotional life. We need this person in our life. So guru is not enough. Especially our gurus often have thousands of disciples. They cannot always be there and see what's happening in our daily life or something. So we have to have a counselor who we are willing to take guidance from, and if we can tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, just cool down, relax, remember, What is Krishna trying to teach you here? Try to reflect, because from outside, usually people can immediately see why the person is finding themselves in the situation. But because when we are in the middle of it, our vision is blocked, we can't see. So that's why we need that person. In fact, we can say as long as we have material desires and attachments, and we all do, we actually cannot assess ourselves. I, this is too much. The temple room is not a sporting hall. So the kids have to be quietly engaged with coloring books or sweets or something. But no, sportive activities there. Yes, but I'm happy that you mothers are all coming. This is very good, very encouraging to me. We just have to somehow engage them so they're peaceful and quiet. Sweets are always a good idea. Then they get some sweet impressions of going to the lecture, you know. Yeah, so in any case, as long as we have material desires and attachments, we cannot objectively assess ourselves. Yes. I mean, even Bharat Maharaj, on the level of Baba, his problem actually was he didn't have a counselor. He was all alone in the forest there, you know. And it started all with good intentions, giving shelter to this little deer, and what happened? He got completely sucked in, sleeping with the deer on the chest, kissing it, hugging it. My God, when you read it in the Bhagavatam, you really feel he went a little nuts, over this deer. So he didn't have anybody who said to him, hey, it's enough now with the deer. Let the deer be deer and get back to your sadhana. So even on that level, Baba, where people have transcendental emotions, even they can turn back into material attachments. That should be a good warning to us, Yes. Yeah, so a mentor is of crucial importance. A mentor can save our life, Somebody who we have that trust and faith in, that person is well-wishing and wants our very best, And your first question, Shastric reference, I mean, now out of the blue, I can't come up with anything. But I mean, this is a general sign of Vaishnava humility, actually. I'm sure there's some Shastric references somewhere, but to simply feel, I deserve much worse. That's Vaishnava humility. That's all it is, But the pride would be, oh, how can they treat me like this? Don't they know I've done so much service and I've given that big donation and now they're treating me like this. So that's the proud version, But the humble version is, yes, if you're Trinada Bhisunitana, you give respect to everyone and you don't expect respect and honor for yourself. That's what it means, that manifests in that attitude practically, Yeah. What else? Yes, Mataji. I didn't quite understand it. Who is junior? Who is senior? What's happening? Okay. Yeah. 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 So in other words, actually, there is a rule of Vaishnava etiquette that a Vaishnava should never defend himself or herself, but we should defend others. When we see them badly treated, we should speak up for others, but not for ourselves. So if everybody would follow the Vaishnav etiquette, then there would be no need to defend ourselves. Then surely somebody else would say, hey, how can you speak like this to, my wife or your mother or whatever, you know? But we ourselves should not defend, actually. But the problem is we all do the opposite of what we really should be doing. You know, we are very good at in defending ourselves every day, answering back, blaming others. That's the classic way of defense. Or it's all his fault, or it's all her fault, or it's the external situation, finding excuses. These are all mechanisms to defend the false ego, actually. So we are very good in that. We don't even notice. It's also subtle. But when somebody else is badly treated, then we look away. We don't want to get involved. We don't want to say anything. Or it might ruin my relationships because after all, I'm friends with that person, and how can I say something? And it's none of my business, you know. So that's the problem. We all do the opposite of what we really should be doing, you know. Yes. Because it takes courage to speak up for somebody who is badly treated. It's just easier to pretend that, it's none of my business. Yeah. But, talking about tolerance, let me also say that if there is clear abuse going on, abuse cannot be justified by tolerance. So in other words, if there's really outright abuse, physical, beating, or sexual, or whatever it may be, emotional, so many kinds of abuse are there. So that cannot be tolerated. And we can have that vision that it is not good for the person doing the abuse. That's why we have to do something to protect that person from the reactions he will get when he is abusive. It's Vaishnava aparat, heavy aparat, you know. So, and again, if we find ourselves in an abusive situation, very difficult to defend ourselves. No, we should go to our counselor and reveal our heart. And that person should do something, you know. And if they don't know what to do, then they have to take it to a higher level, you know. So that's the mechanism how we deal with these things. But very often, unfortunately, people don't do anything and it's going on. They don't believe it or whatever, So this is the problem. Yeah, because usually when I talk about tolerance or when we talk about tolerance, very often this topic of abuse comes up, you know. So we cannot justify abuse in the name of tolerance. Yes. Prabhu, you wanted to say something? Whether we should tolerate or not tolerate? Yeah, well, I don't want to go so far and say we absolutely should never defend ourselves, but maybe I quickly share one story from my own life which maybe makes it clear that often it's better just to tolerate. So this is, how long is that ago? Oh, 15 years ago or even longer. The German taxation department, they charged me 1.5 lakh tax, rupees, not euros, 1,500 euros tax, which I was not supposed to pay. They simply cheated me. And I had 3 months' time to respond to this, and I missed this 3 months period because I was traveling. I didn't see the letter. Somebody else accepted the letter, but they didn't open it. They didn't tell me what's in it. So by the time I got the letter, it was too late. The 3 months were up. So, and of course, as we said, when we are cheated, ooh, that provokes the false ego. So I was so angry. My goodness. You know, the whole topic was just really going around in my head. I immediately rang this lady in the taxation department and got on her case, and we had a whole argument. So, and she was saying, well, you can take the matter to court. You missed your 3 months period, and that's the only thing you can do. Take it to court. You know, and I was thinking, my God, what to do? So, and then I remembered one statement from the Bhagavatam, which I had copied in my verse book. That's why it's sometimes good to know a little bit of Shastra, you know. And if I hadn't written it into my verse book, I probably wouldn't have remembered it. So I want to read this to you. This is 4th Canto, 19th chapter, verse 34. The verse goes as follows. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, meaning Krishna's arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. Well, that's exactly what I experienced. So now Prabhupada's purport. Sometimes a saintly or very religious person also has to meet with reversals in life. Such incidents should be taken as providential. Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, one should avoid counteracting such reversals, for the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest regions of materialistic anxiety. Lord Krishna has also advised us in this connection. One should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. Yeah. So I remember that. And I could immediately feel it. You know, my bhajan was out the window. I couldn't even chant anymore. The whole thing was just going in my head, you know. So, and then after reading it again, I thought, okay, I'm just going to pay it. That's it. Finished. You know, I haven't paid that much tax in my life in this lifetime, so maybe I still owe them something. All right, let them have it. Let them have it. So I just paid the 1,500 euros and that was it. So now, of course, for Zigo, for 2 or 3 days, it was still protesting, you know. Oh, Krishna's Lakshmi, I could have used it in Bangladesh or Ukraine and you know. So, but then after 2 or 3 days, I was over it, you know. And good thing to remember, will this be important at the moment of death? And then we realize, no, who cares how much tax we paid when we meet death? So, you know, it's part of the nonsensical stage performance, the whole thing. Curtain closes, show is over. You know, no significance, no importance. Yeah. Yeah, so good to remember this too. And every now and again, when we're facing these challenges, is this significant at the moment of death? No, it's not. Only thing that counts is my relationship with Krishna at that time, you know. Yeah, so see, because from mundane point of view, I may be looking like the loser paying the tax. You know? So we may look like the winner when we always counteract all these reversals and we battle and we, defend ourselves and we take a lawyer and this and that. But on a spiritual platform, we may be very successful battling our way through life, but at the moment of death, is our false ego dissolved? No, it may not. So after all successful battle defending our false ego, we have to take another birth. But if we just learn to tolerate, take these opportunities to cultivate tolerance, and with mundane vision, we look like the loser. But spiritual vision, we may have dissolved our false ego by learning to tolerate and letting go of the false ego's demands. And we sneak off back to Godhead, back through the back door. So, yeah, again, what is success with material eyes is the lowest in bhakti. So we have to very carefully see, again, with a mentor, with a counselor, we have to see, is it worth defending? So yeah, we have to very carefully discuss with the counselor, is this worthwhile defending, or should we better let it go and use the whole experience as an opportunity to cultivate tolerance? So it's a tricky thing. So I don't want to go that extreme to say we should never defend, but at least we should very carefully consider. Yeah, yeah. All right, well, can you give me the False Ego book? Yeah. And can you make sure the incense is extinguished as soon as he offered it? Otherwise, my voice will get affected. So let me move on to the topic of forgiveness, right? I think we have talked a fair bit about tolerance. Of course, there's always more points to discover and explore, but let us move on to these forgiveness meditations. So to begin with, let us remember that life in the material world, there will always be so many unexpected disappointments, hurtful situations. This is unavoidable. It's simply part of life in the material world, right? So, and our relationships will definitely be filled with more joy and harmony as we learn to forgive and move on. So this forgiveness is a really important thing to cultivate. Otherwise, we accept all this luggage and carry it with us, and it is torturing us, and we will suffer in our relationships if we don't learn this forgiveness. So then, I'm sure we have all heard about Nelson Mandela, right? That freedom fighter there in South Africa. He was unjustly imprisoned for quite a few years, not sure how many. So he shares the following. As I walked out the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, towards the gate of the jail, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison. Yes. So that bitterness and hatred, this is what really imprisons us. Yes. And another thinker discovers, I never knew how strong I was until I had to forgive someone who wasn't sorry and accept an apology which I never received. We can forgive others not because they deserve forgiveness, but because we deserve peace. May I request the Pujari just to ring the bell a little bit more gently, so I don't have to scream so much. I'm not sure if he hears me. Anyway. Yeah, so this is a good point, you know. We often think, oh, the other person is not deserving that I forgive them, you know. But now he's already finished. Yeah, so it's not a matter of whether the other person deserves our forgiveness. Let's not be distracted there, you know. So it's not a question of whether the other person deserves that we forgive them. No, that's not the point. The point is we deserve peace. That's the real point. So the main reason why we have to cultivate forgiveness is so we let go of this pain we keep in our heart. Because only then we will be peaceful, you know? Yes. The truth is, unless we let go, unless we forgive ourselves, this can also be a challenge, you know. Let's imagine we did a really foolish mistake, some big blunder which really ruined our whole reputation. Let's imagine we had some stupid fall down or whatever, and everybody knows, oh my God, so embarrassing. And then again, the false ego whispers into our ears, oh, how could you do this? You're such a good devotee, and what will everybody think? You know, so it may really be difficult to forgive ourselves for some blunder, you know. But again, if we use the two tools, actually, I deserve so much worse, you know. Krishna is so kind, at least I'm still alive. I'm still in the association of devotees, you know. And what is Krishna trying to teach me? What lesson is he trying to give me? Maybe he had to smash my false ego a bit and make me understand I'm not as pure and advanced as I thought I was and all that, you know. So yeah, we have to learn to forgive ourselves. But the false ego tells us, oh, you know, you're so strong and how could you do this? You know? Yeah. So the truth is, unless we let go, unless we forgive ourselves, unless we forgive the situation and others around us, unless we realize the situation is over, it's done, it's in the past, we cannot move forward. That's the whole thing. You know, we're stuck, we're trapped, you know. And again, that's why we need a counselor who reminds us of these points, because false ego will block our ears and intelligence and we will not be able to see these things, you know. But a person who is aloof of the whole situation, he or she will be very easily able to see, you know. Forgiveness is not only something we do for other people, we also do it for ourselves to get well and move on. Forgiveness doesn't excuse their behavior. This is also often a point we think that by forgiving, we excuse their behavior. But no, that's actually not the point. You know, it's not about them being excused or that we let them off the hook, you know. But no, Forgiveness prevents their behavior from destroying our heart. That is what forgiveness does, right? It doesn't excuse their behavior, but it protects our heart from being destroyed by whatever happened to us. That's why we have to learn to forgive, right? Yes, you with me here? Yes? Okay. There's a few more points. Maybe it is not always about trying to fix something broken. Maybe it's about starting over and creating something better. Forgiveness is when I give up my right to hurt you for hurting me. So that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur also says. It is not about letting someone off the hook for their actions, but freeing ourselves of the negative energies that bind us to them. That's exactly what happens. If we don't forgive, then this negative energy is still affecting us and it is binding us to that person. We keep that alive. We keep the offense alive in our heart, which the person did, if we don't forgive. Yeah. Forgiving does not erase the bitter past. This is also something, we have that saying, forget and forgive. But no, we don't forget. No. We remember. Oh, yes, we remember. And we should remember because maybe we were also allowing that offense to take place. We didn't protect ourselves enough. So just to make sure things don't repeat itself, we should remember. But we remember it differently without that pain in the heart. Maybe we can even smile or laugh about it. Oh yeah, I remember that happened. Oh my God, Yes. Yes, but there is no pain anymore. So it's a different way of remembering things. Yes, so forgiveness does not erase the bitter past. A healed memory is not a deleted memory. Yes, no, not deleted. We remember, but it's healed. It's a healed memory. Instead, forgiving what we cannot forget creates a new way to remember it. Yes. We change the memory of our past into a hope of our future. Yeah. So that's a good point too, that not forgetting, but the memory is healed. It's a different way of remembering things. Relationships get stronger when both are willing to understand mistakes and forgive each other. Especially important for family relationships, married life. We have to learn to understand our mistakes and forgive each other. We can offer a prayer. My dear Lord, if I hurt others, give me the strength to apologize. If people hurt me, give me the strength to forgive. So what do you think is more difficult? To apologize or forgive? Forgive, yeah. It takes a strong person to say sorry and an even stronger person to forgive. Often when we say sorry, there can also be this ego battle, that we think, oh, the other person actually should apologize. They should apologize first. I'm not going to apologize. I'm waiting until the other person apologizes. And then we may say, yes, Prabhu, I'm really sorry, but, and then we have all our talk there why it's actually their fault and not much my fault. So, of course, that kind of apology is not really clearing and healing the atmosphere, you know. But usually we can say even if we are not at fault, but just the fact that somehow we contributed in putting another person in anxiety, that in itself is enough reason to apologize, you know, even if it's not really our fault, but actually their fault or something. You know, and usually if we really honestly apologize, that melts the other person's heart, and then people say, oh, actually, it was my fault, you know, I'm also sorry. And then we give each other a hug and the whole thing is over, you know. So we should always endeavor to immediately clear things up. You know, if there was some funny exchange, some misunderstanding, some tension or something, we should talk. We should approach each other and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, and I didn't mean it like that," and just to clear the atmosphere. Otherwise, all these kind of things are building up. And with this luggage, we cannot go back to Goddard. No chance. You know, yes. Especially, you know, before we leave our body. Actually, even Prabhupada, before he left, he apologized to his godbrothers, even though, you know, there was nothing for him to apologize, actually, you know. But this is Vaishnav humility, and it's good to really clear things up. Otherwise, these unresolved things, they force us to take birth again. Very clear. You know, we can't enter the spiritual world with all these unresolved issues in the mind. They're mundane aspects. So subtle body, if it's not fully transformed and spiritualized, will force us to take another birth. You know, so we have to be attentive to this, to clear things up and forgive and apologize and clear the atmosphere, you know, and not allow this negativity to hang in the air, and, you know, yes. Where were we? Yeah, it takes a strong person to say sorry, and then even a stronger person to forgive. To forgive is not always easy. At times it feels more painful than the wound we suffered to forgive the one that inflicted it. Yeah, the pain is really felt in the false ego, you know, the false ego is in pain. And yet, there is no peace without forgiveness. When we forgive, we heal. And when we let go, we grow. It even rhymes, you know. When we forgive, we heal. When we let go, we grow. Forgiveness is about recognizing that staying resentful creates an active echo of the pain the offender caused. That's also a nice way of putting it, you know. It creates an active echo. It keeps that pain alive, sometimes for 20 years, you know. By saying that the awful offense, hey, somebody keeps the kids under control. By saying that the awful offense the offender did is beyond forgiveness, we give them the power to keep their offense alive in our heart. That's what we do when we don't forgive. We give the person the power to keep that offense alive. We give the offender continued power over us. So that's what's happening when we don't learn to forgive. You know? Yes, so let us summarize. You know, forgiveness is based on tolerance. The more we learn to tolerate, the more easy we can forgive, we can let go, you know. And forgiving we do for others, not for ourselves. Sorry, not so much for others, but we do it mainly for ourselves. So we can heal and we can cut this negative energy, and we don't allow that person to ongoingly affect us and keep that pain alive. And what are the two tools again for cultivating tolerance? Faith and humility. Yes. The humility to say, actually, I deserve worse. Krishna only gives me one drop of what I really deserve. And the faith in Krishna to see Krishna's hand in the picture, asking ourselves, what is Krishna trying to teach me? All right. So any concluding questions, comments? Yes. Emotionally? Okay. Well, it simply means we have not forgiven. That's what it means. You know, we still carry that pain in our heart. It still comes up, especially when we chant and when all these same topics are going on in our mind in circles again and again and again. It's always a sure sign that false ego is having us in its grips and torturing us, you know? Yes. So it means we have to still do some more internal work there using these two tools. Actually, I'm deserving so much worse. Krishna is so kind, he only gives me one drop. If we really imbibe this mood and try to deeply understand this, deeply in the heart, accept it, that will quieten down the false ego. That will quieten down. Gradually that pain will diminish. If we actually truly cultivate this feeling that we actually deserve worse. And that maybe we tortured that person before in this life, last life. So now it comes back to me. And the other tool, why is Krishna doing this? What is he trying to teach me? I mean, if we really use these tools, we have to cultivate them, not just once read it and that's it or something, but no, we have to meditate on these tools. And ultimately, understanding that the lack of forgiveness is based on the lack of tolerance, and the lack of tolerance is based on false ego. So, what is the ultimate cure? What is the ultimate cure? Huh? Yeah, how do we give up the false ego? Yeah, but how do we take shelter of the holy name? What do we do? Yeah, it's all easy said, but now what do we do? There's one tool which maybe I didn't mention in the false ego section. Well, huh? What do we do? Huh? Yeah, it's easy said. Now what do we do? Come on, folks. Yeah, praying, we're getting warmer here. We're getting closer. Now we are crying out to Lord Nrsimhadev to pull out this Hiranyakashipu of the false ego from our heart. Right? Yes. Hiranyakashipu is like the embodiment of false ego and envy and all that. So, and we have been carrying the false ego for so many lifetimes with us, you know? We actually, out of our own strength, we cannot free ourselves. Yeah, that's so deep rooted, so subtle. So that's why Lord Nrsimhadev, with his sharp nails, he is the expert heart surgeon, you know? Only he can do it, actually. And it is said that actually Satyananda Swami explains this nicely. He usually comes for Nrsimha Chaturdasi to the German farm where Simhachalam, it's called, where Big Lord Nrsimhadev is also worshipped. So he often explains how Lord Nrsimhadev prepares our heart so that one day we can approach Radha Krishna. With all these Hiranyakashipus there in the heart, how can we approach Radha Krishna? So we first need the heart surgery here, you know. Yeah, that's why in Mayapur, when we greet the deities, we go first to Lord Nrsimhadev. Then we go over to Panchatattva. We get their mercy. And only then we greet Radha Madhav. Or here in the Nrsimha Giri temple, you first, you know, meet Lord Nrsimhadev. Then you go up the stairs. One step up. So, and then you greet the Radha Krishna, you know. So, yeah, crying out to Lord Nrsimhadev, begging him to please enter my heart, pull out this Hiranyakashipus. That's the ultimate solution. Yeah. So, and if we do this sincerely, then Lord Nrsimhadev will do the job, you know. Yes, yes. But the problem is we have this illusory hope that, you know, false ego will also give us. Just can you switch off this sound there, or is it coming from outside? Oh, I thought this was somebody's mobile phone here. Okay, sorry, we can't switch him off. Yeah, so the unfortunate situation is that we have this illusory hope that this false ego gives us some juicy fruits to enjoy, you know, being the cool guy and knowing it all better and just see I told you and so that's the whole thing. We nicely protect and feed and boost the false ego. We don't so easily want to kick it out. And that's why Nrsimhadev says, all right, if you want to have it, have it. You know, just let me know when you want to get rid of it. You know, yes. Yes. So crying out to Lord Nrsimhadev. It's a good thing when we chant our japa. Usually that's what I do. I start with Lord Nrsimhadev. I spend a bit of time with him, you know, calling out to him, you know, please let me get rid of my false ego. So, and then we can go to Prabhupada and beg him, please let me get one drop of what you carry in your heart, how you chant, how you have so much faith in the holy name, and. So then we can move on to our Diksha Guru, maybe, or favorite sadhu, or whatever. Spend some time there begging for capturing something from him. So then we can go to Krishna, then we can go to Radharani, then we can go back to Lord Nrsimhadev. So we can allow our mind to wander a little bit, because the mind likes to wander, and it may be hard for 2 hours just to pray to Krishna, who is a little further away there. But so we can give the mind, a certain frame to wander to these personalities, crying out, begging for mercy, and. Yeah, but Lord Nrsimhadev is always good to start with, at least for me. And we can take it from day to day. Let me just have one day without ego stuff here from my side, that I don't, get triggered and agitated and answer back and defend myself. Just one day, please. So and then, all right, in the evening we can look at our day. How was it? And the next day again, one day without false ego rebelling and protesting. So and then gradually we can transform our patterns of behaviors. All right, anything else? Yes? Well, it depends. If we have truly forgiven, then we don't need to avoid that person. We have forgiven, we have let go, we moved on, so we can treat them like any other person. But we may have to be a little cautious, because sometimes we may, share things which we actually better should not tell others. So we may also be implicated why this person could hurt us. So there we keep a little, we are more careful, you know. But otherwise, if we have truly forgiven, then we can deal with the other person in a normal, nice, friendly, affectionate way. But if we still feel, oh no, I don't want to talk to this person, so then obviously we are not there yet. But that is also okay for some time. We may just need a bit of distance to digest and heal and all that. So forgiveness, it is a process, you know. It's not something we do from one day to the other necessarily. We may just need some time to heal, to meditate on these tools and just to let it go. So that is understandable, and that's okay. But eventually we should get to the point where we have truly forgiven and we can deal with a person. you know and it's often helpful to talk about it, you know and that helps. Yes. Yeah. All right, anything else? Okay, well, let us finish. 10 to 9, it's late enough. Just in case there's still somebody who did not get the books they want to get. As you saw, we have read today from the False Ego book, so there's a lot of other interesting things there. Just leave them there. What do you leave? Oh, well, is there somebody who has not heard me talk about the books? Huh? Is there somebody? All right, so then give them all to me. I thought, meanwhile, everybody gets sick and tired of me saying about the books. So then you quickly give them to me, just in case there's somebody who still would feel inspired to get them. Because tomorrow is our last session. Wednesday I'm leaving. So if you want to get some books, you better let me know. Huh? What's that? Well, I don't want to push people, but yeah, let me quickly say, spiritual culture, Krishna's divine system. This is all about the women's powerful energy. We women have a very powerful Shakti, and we should serve as the power of inspiration for the men. What? Well, then no need to explain to Hindi, because how will he read it if he only understands Hindi? So let me just quickly give you some idea about each book, and then I can advise you more privately what to buy. So if you have daughters, very helpful for them, or maybe for your wife. Very interesting topic. When you read this book, you will understand that man, woman are equal on the level of the soul, but not on the level of the body. They're very different. They have very different natures because they're meant to play different roles. And you will realize how our whole world is upside down because of this man-woman equality. It puts the whole human society upside down. That's all about that topic. So then we have sheltering relationships. That's about the topic of the importance of having a counselor. So today we were talking several times about this, how important it is to have a counselor. So when you read this book, you will be very clear that without having a counselor and eventually becoming one to others, we cannot make advancement. That's this topic. So then for its ego, I think we have some little clue what this is all about. There's also a whole chapter about chanting the holy name, how to chant in japa, in kirtan, so we can get the benefit and mercy of the holy name. Tomorrow we have a session on kirtan. Kirtan, a transcendental affair. It's not just some jolly music, it's a highly transcendental affair. So this is also in this book about kirtan, japa, and false ego. Very powerful combination. So then we have entering the Grihastha. That's a handbook for matchmaking. If you have daughters, sons, very well. If you have daughters or sons who are not married yet, so this would be a good help for them. How to do it, how not to do it, how to see that a boy and a girl are compatible for marriage. There's a whole list of over 200 topics which we should discuss with a cool head to see, do we have similar moods and goals and standards we want to follow. And then we have family life as an ashram, secrets of success, how to create the culture of bhakti in our home. Many married devotees' family life is not an ashram, a place suitable for spiritual development, for bhakti. So there's it's like a handbook for successful Krishna conscious family life. If you have children who are married, very helpful. So many practical tips, and it's all based on Prabhupada. How the husband should treat the wife, how she should treat him. For the wife, how to learn how to make her idea his idea. Yeah, it's a tactic to learn. And then the Vanapasa. This may be relevant for you personally. Meeting death with joy. There's a whole big chapter on death. What happens on all the subtle levels, how to prepare, how to support others in that final journey. Our parents are leaving, senior devotees are leaving, sooner or later we are leaving. So we have to prepare, we have to know how to support each other. And Vanapasa is that phase in life when the children are settled, then the parents should move on to the next phase. Retired life, deepening our spiritual practice. There's a lot of good things there practically how to actually live this Vanapasa. It's not established in ISKCON yet, you know. So if you want to get some books, the last 4 books are 350. The first 2 are 300. Whole set is 2,000 rupees. Many people were getting the whole set because they're all good topics. Some may be good for you. Some you can give away to your kids. Some give to your friends or whatever. You know. Yeah, and you can pay cash or with QR code. Okay. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada ki. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki. Gaura Premanandi. So tomorrow we have the last session, Kirtan, a transcendental affair. Tomorrow we start at 6, is that right? Yeah, I hope people will come. So, yes. Yeah, let's hope so.